Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel and to another video. I hope you are all doing really well. In today's video, I'm going to be introducing you to HTV or iron-on vinyl. They're both the same thing, just different terms for it. And I'm going to share with you two different projects. One for complete beginners, which is this one. This is Dottie's dog collar. We have just decorated it with some hearts, which is a really simple project for you to do if you're a beginner with HTV. If you're a bit more advanced or you've completed this project and you feel like you're confident enough to try something a little bit more complicated, then I'm going to make this sweater in Design Space with you and go through it step by step. And this one will be on my profile if you want to check that out as well, with all of the image codes and all that sort of stuff on there as well. So without any further ado, let's jump in to this introduction to HTV. Before we get started with our project then, let's take a look at the different types of vinyl that we've got in front of us here. So all of these that you can see are HTV or iron-on. HTV and iron-on are just two different terms, but they mean exactly the same thing. So some companies will call it HTV, and that stands for heat transfer vinyl, and other companies such as Cricut call it iron-on. Now this one here that I've got, both of these are from GM Crafts, and these are textile vinyls, and then in smaller writing there it does say heat transfer. Now all it means is that once you've cut your vinyl and you're ready to put it onto your garment or whatever it is that you're going to be putting it onto, you need to use a iron or a heat press in order to activate the sticky side of this vinyl to get it to stick down to whatever you're putting it onto. You can use HTV on loads of different things. You can use it on t-shirts, you can use it on sweatshirts. I've used it on cardstock before now. I have used it on wood. There's so many different surfaces that you can use it on. But these are a few of the different ones that you can get. So you can get glitter HTV, which I absolutely adore. I love this stuff. This is a sheet of glow-in-the-dark from MDP Supplies. I buy sheets when I'm buying HTV because I don't use it all that often, but I'll do sometimes have a project in mind and I will grab something like this for it. So that is an A3 sheet there of glitter vinyl. Then this one is an A4 sheet, and I got this from a craft show. Now this one is very, very thick and it feels quite stiff, whereas this one is a lot more rubbery and a lot more pliable. But you'll notice with both of them that they both have a dull side and they both have a super shiny side. So the dull side is actually the adhesive on the back of the vinyl. You'll notice if you have used vinyl before that it's sticky on one side, but HTV is different in that respect. It's not sticky at all, and that's because, as I said before, it does require heat to make it sticky. So you've got the shiny side on both of these, and that is the carrier sheet, and that is basically a little bit like its own inbuilt transfer paper. So with HTV you don't need any transfer paper, so this is what I would use for vinyl. I don't need that for this one because I've already got a transfer sheet actually attached to the vinyl. These are small rolls that I get, as I said, from GM Crafts. The glitter HTV from them is amazing. I absolutely adore it. It's such good quality and it adheres so well to garments, so it's definitely a thumbs up from me. These ones I think were from a mystery box, and I'm not sure if they still do the mystery box, but if they do, it's well worth you taking a look at that. This one is a 550mm roll. This is from MDP Supplies again, and it is a hot flex. So this one is slightly different to the others that I've just showed you. This comes on a really big roll. This was about 10 meters I think when I bought it originally, but this is what I use for all sorts of basic projects, and you'll see me use this in various videos that I've filmed over the years. So if you want to look back at any of the HTV projects, I'll put all those in the link in the description down below for you. And again with this one you've got a shiny side and a dull side, but it's not quite as noticeable with this vinyl because the carrier sheet on this one is really, really thin compared to what is on this glitter stuff. So it's still super duper strong, but it's not as obvious to you. So it might be a good idea, if you're using something like this, just to double check which side is your adhesive side and which side you carrier sheet before you cut it, because it can be quite tricky to see that sometimes. Here I am then in Cricut Design Space with a nice blank canvas ready, and first things first, what I'm going to do is do a really basic design on this dog collar. So let's come over to the shapes menu here, and there's a couple of different hearts that I quite like. So this one is the free one, so if you haven't got a subscription to Cricut Access, this is the basic heart that you can use. And then this one down here, a little bit further down, is a little bit more interesting, but it is an access image. But I think this is the one I'm going to go for. So let's click on that, and it just brings it up on the screen there. Now what I'm going to do is just shrink that design down so that it's going to be the right size to fit on Dot's collar. I am just going to briefly measure the width of her collar. So it's 15 millimeters. So that's going to be a bit big. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Next, what I'm going to do is just duplicate that heart, and I'm going to pull it down here, and then I'm going to select both of those and duplicate that again. So I have approximately 20 centimeters to work with, so I need to just make 20 centimeters worth of design. So let's put that there for now. This is lovely. It's a little bit too long. Let's take one out and see, that's 22, so let's take another one out. That's about right. It's 20.25 centimeters, so it's going to be okay. We can adapt that when we come to putting it on. The next thing I'm going to do then is to highlight everything, and there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can either drag with your mouse over everything that you've got on your screen, so all of those hearts are now selected, as you can see just there. Each one is selected because it's green and highlighted. The other way to do it is to come up to here to where it says select all and click on that, and again that will select everything in your layers panel and make it all green. The next step is to make our arrangement of these correct. So if we come up here to where it says align, and it gives us all of these different options, we can click on any one of these. What I want to do first of all is distribute everything horizontally, so I'm going to click on that. And as you can see, it moved them slightly. So this has now made the gaps in between the hearts all equal and correct. But they're still a bit higgledy-piggledy. So still making sure everything's selected. Come up to align again. And then what you'll want to do is either align them to the top or align them to the bottom. It doesn't matter which one. It'll do exactly the same thing for you. So let's click on align to the top. And they will all move up when I click off them. So now they're all aligned. They are equally spaced in between them, and they are all lined up along the bottom and along the top. Next, what we want to do again is select all of our hearts, and we want to come down here to attach. The reason that we have clicked on attach rather than group is because we want the machine to know that this is the formation that we want it to cut our hearts in. If I just grouped it, it would put the hearts onto the mat on the next page how it saw fit, depending on how it would fit it for nesting purposes. Nesting is when all of the items that you're cutting out are arranged on the cutting mat on the next screen. And with Cricut, it can be a little bit hit or miss, so it's important to attach. You'll see a bit more about attaching in the next example. So basically now our hearts are ready to go, and we could go through to make it, and we could just put our HTV or iron-on down onto the mat and we could cut it. But the problem that we might find is that our settings might not work on the vinyl. So what I like to do is just move my design up to there, and I'm just going to come over here onto the layers panel, and this little eye is what I'm going to click on just to hide that. Now the reason that I'm doing that is because I am going to do a test cut first of all, and this is really important. If you don't do a test cut and you're cutting out a big design, you could end up wasting a whole sheet of HTV, and it's not cheap. So it's a really good idea to do a test cut. So I am going to come shapes again, and I'm just going to pick that basic heart that we spoke about at the beginning. I am going to make it about the same size roughly as what I'm going to be cutting out, and I'm going to go through to make it. Now because we have hidden our other hearts, it's just this heart that's on the screen. So now I can go through to continue. Now that I'm on this screen, I need to set my base material. Now I've got a few bookmarks here. So I've got glitter iron-on, I've got everyday iron-on, but you might want to go into browse all materials and see which one you fancy. Now there's a couple of ways again of looking at these. You can either search for what you'd like up here. Bear in mind that Cricut does call HTV iron-on, so you'll need to type in iron-on with a hyphen. Or you can come over here to this drop down box in the all categories and you can just come down here to iron-on. This gives us all of the different ones that we can choose for this. So for the vinyl that I'm going to be using, I would normally choose this glitter iron-on setting, which I do have bookmarked. I'll select it here just to make it a little bit simpler, and then I get the green tick. I can click on done, and then it tells me here, make sure mirror is turned on and iron-on material is face shiny side down. Now mirror is something that we need to use if we are not doing a symmetrical design. So if we've got wording, for instance, or if the design needs to face a certain way, you need to use mirror. I'm not going to use mirror for my test cut, but when we go through to the next project, which is a little more complicated, and we make the sweater design, I'll show you how to use mirror there. So we're ready now then to set up our mat for our glitter iron-on, and we are going to switch back to the desk and do that now. Here is my cutting mat then. I like to use a light grip or a medium standard grip for this, but today I'm using a light grip because I only opened this one yesterday. So I've got my collar here and I'm happy that my design is going to fit on there when we cut it out. So I'm just going to put the collar out the way. Here is the HTV then with the shiny side, so that is the side that needs to go face down as it said on the screen just. So what we need to do is just get this and we're going to pop it up in the corner of our cutting mat. We want to try and get it as straight as we can, and because this is a new mat it's going to stick quite well as it is. If your mat isn't quite as sticky, you might want to add some bits of tape around the outside just to make sure that it doesn't move. I'm just going to use my brayer just to press it down like that, and that is ready now to go into the machine. Let's go back. Here's my machine then. I've got my fine point blade already in clamp B. The insert mat button is flashing but go is not yet. So let's get our mat and just guide it into the machine. I must also mention I have moved the star wheels out the way, so there's one here and the other three are over this side. I'm just using the plastic guides on my machine to pop that mat in, and I'm just going to press the insert mat button. So the machine just moves its carriage back to one side and we are ready to go. So let's now press go. That was a super quick cut because it was such a tiny thing. What I'm going to do now is eject the mat and I'm going to see if that has cut out. So let's just give it a little lift up with my weeding tool. That has come out of there absolutely perfect, so we know that that glitter iron-on setting is going to work for this. Let's go back now and get our little hearts back up on the screen, ready to cut them out for Dot's collar. Here we are with our heart that we've just cut out. We want to hide that. We want to bring back our heart in a line. Let's go through to make again. Now let's go through to continue because we don't need to change anything here. We don't need to mirror. I'm going to choose the same setting that we just used before, which is glitter iron-on. And again, it's going to tell me about mirror and putting everything shiny side down. So let's go back to the camera and I'm going to just show you something that we just need to think about before we cut out our design. Of course, because we've used this piece of HTV, we've got a little heart cut out at the top. So what we need to do is just take this off and rearrange our design, because otherwise we're going to end up with the machine trying to cut in this same position again. Now I could just cut that out, but there's no point. I am just going to turn my piece of HTV round and just reapply it down onto the mat, making sure that my adhesive side, the dull side, is facing me again and that the shiny side is sticking onto that mat. So I'm just going to use my brayer again. I'm now just going to pop this into the machine and cut it out, and then I'll come back and show you how we're going to weed it. Here's my mat then. So we've got our hearts cut across the top there, just like that. The first thing to do is to cut out these hearts just using a X-Acto knife, or I'm using my True Control knife today. So I'm just going to grab my ruler and I'm going to cut across here. Now the reason I'm doing that is because I don't want to waste material by weeding away anything that I don't need. So let's just get rid of that. And then that will allow me now to lift up this HTV and just get that off there. As I said, it's super duper thick, so just be careful that you've gone through everything, but don't go through your mat because that would be annoying. That is off there now, and this is the strip then that's got my hearts on it. Let's grab a weeding tool. Again, I'm just using the True Control weeding tool, and I'm just going to lift that up in the corner. And I am going to pull away those hearts from there. What I want to do is make sure that the hearts are still stuck on that carrier sheet, and it's much easier to weed like this when it's attached to the mat. You may find that some bits of it haven't quite cut as well, like that little bit in there had stayed, but it's still cut, just needed a little bit of help with the weeding tool to get that out. Same here, just a little bit of help with the weeder, and then just make sure everything is nice and flat on your mat. So that is the negative material that we don't need. You could use it if you wanted to as a stencil or something, but for the most part this bit normally gets thrown in the bin. Next, what we're going to do then is just get this off the mat. And I'm going to turn my mat back and pull my mat away from my material. Here is the design then, and it's ready now to go onto Dot's collar. So let's get Dot's collar back in. She's got this super cute little heart that the groomer put on at the weekend when they went there. Let's just grab this then, and we're going to put it on there like that. Got to make sure that it's going to fit. I might take her heart off for now. There we go, and then I'm going to just apply this onto here and just double check that it fits. And our next step then is to gather together everything that we're going to need to actually activate this heat transfer vinyl to make sure that it sticks to Dot's collar perfectly. So for this you are going to need either a household iron with the steam turned off. That's really, really important that your steam is turned off. Or if you've got one, you can use a heat press. This is a Cricut Easy Press Mini. This is the raspberry version. I've had it a couple of years and I find it really, really good for small projects like this. For the sweater, I will be using a bigger heat press, but this is the one I'm going to be using for this one. So while I talk about everything else here, I'm just going to start the heating up process of this. So I'm just going to turn it on, and I'm going to put it up to number 2, and as you can see it has 3 heat settings on it. These look a little bit green on the screen right now, but they are orange, and this orange temperature here also shows that the machine is heating up at the moment. Once it's heated up, it'll beep and tell me that it's ready to go, and these lights will all turn green. So I'm just going to pop this on its stand just to make sure that it's nice and safe on my desk. Obviously then I've got my collar and I've got my HTV. This is a Cricut pressing mat. This is perfect for if you're doing a small project on your desk, or if you're using a bigger heat press. This is actually, did you hear that beep? That means that's ready to go. This is actually the one that came with my bigger heat press, but I'm going to use it today as well. The next thing that I would always recommend using is one of these. This is a HTV Ront Teflon sheet for heat presses. These are about £10 and there's 3 in this pack. This is the one I've used previously. This is what we're going to put in between our HTV and our heat press when we're pressing it, and it just creates a barrier which stops any damage occurring. Then I have my trusty lint roller from IKEA, and we're going to use that first of all. So let's grab this collar and we're just going to lay it out, and I'm going to just go over it with this lint roller and just make sure that there's no wayward dog fluff or anything attached onto there that will stop the HTV from sticking. The next step that I'm going to do then is just pop my Teflon sheet down on there, and I'm going to just warm up my collar using my press. This just helps to reduce the amount of moisture that might be in the collar, and it just helps the vinyl to stick a little bit better. Now that our collar is nice and warm and we've got rid of all that moisture and any fluff, it's time to put our design onto our collar. So let's pop that on there. Now this is the point where I'm going to add some heat resistant tape, and this is heat resistant tape. It's pretty funky looking. I'm just going to find the end, which is around here somewhere. I'll pop a link for all of these things down below so you can see them. This is what it looks like when you pull it out. I'm just going to cut off a bigger piece that I'm going to cut into two. I just want to make sure that my vinyl doesn't move when I'm pressing it. So let's just put that on there, and it's just going to hold that onto the canvas there of the collar. And then again on this side, I'm just going to slip it underneath that little clasp and just push that down onto there. We don't want it to move. It's really important that it doesn't move. I'm happy that that isn't going to move and that my design is nicely laid out. Let's grab the Teflon sheet again. I'm just going to lay the Teflon sheet over the top, and I've got my heat press ready to go. As you can see, the lights have turned green. What I'm going to do is start off this end, and I'm just going to press quite firmly. If you're using an iron, now is the time to make sure that you press as hard as you can. And I'm just going to keep moving over that design. I'm going to keep lifting up my Teflon sheet just to double check that it hasn't moved. It's important to just keep checking your design is still in the right place, even if you have used the heat resistant tape. Just periodically lift up your Teflon sheet and just check. When you're using a mini press, and if you're using an iron as well, it is a little bit more hit and miss as to whether your design needs a longer time to adhere or shorter time, because it's not like if you're using an auto press or a bigger press, for instance. You're more relying on your own knowledge as to when it's done. So let's just take that away and just carefully lift that up. That is perfect. See how easily that carrier sheet came off there, and that is what it looks like now. There's my heat resistant tape still attached, so that's pretty good. The next thing I'm going to do is just grab my Teflon sheet again. Don't know where that little bit of ribbon's come from, and I'm just going to go over the design one more time just with my mini press. Then I'm going to take my Teflon off, and I'm going to do the same but from the other side. So let me just put that there. Let's grab that Teflon again, and we're just going to go over there just to give it a secondary press. You don't need to go mad with it, just a little bit will do, and that should be done. Do we think Dot is going to like this colour? Beautiful. She's going to look so cute. Let's move on now to the sweater design. Here I am then back in Design Space, and this is the design I'm going to use for the sweater. Now there is this heart with the wings, and then I've chosen this love as well. These are both Cricut Design Space Access images. I'll pop the codes down below for you now so you can see them. If you want to use the same images that I'm using, you can always find this project on my profile. And again, if you don't know how to find a profile in Design Space, I'll pop a short video down in the description for you. Just shows you how to do that really quickly and simply. So this is the design I'm going to be using, as I've said, and I'm first of all going to just change the colours so they match the same. So let's go on to the heart. I'm going to just change it to be a bright red, and I'm going to change this love to be a bright red as well. And then, as you can see, this heart overlaps a little bit, and I don't really want that. So let's select it and try and move it up and see whether it fits a bit better like that. I like that better. And to be perfectly honest, I am going to leave it the size it is with that very, very slight overlap. And the reason behind that is because sometimes when you press HTV or iron-on, it does shrink a little bit. So it's a good idea to have that little tiny bit of extra just there. Right, next thing to do is to size this image. So let's just select love, and you can see it's selected here. We are going to use this drag bar here just to pull that down slightly, and then what I'm going to do is select everything again. So remember how to do that, either with select all or dragging over everything like that. What I'm going to do first of all is, in fact, I'm going to put my love a little bit closer to there. I'm going to select it all again, and then what I'm going to do is come up to a line again, and this time we are going to use the center horizontally, because we're going to be centering the heart with the wings and the love together. So let's click on that. I don't think it's going to move very much, it's going to be fractional, so keep your eyes peeled. Ready? Really, really slight movement of those wings. So that's perfect. Next thing I'm going to do then is come over here to group. Now that's grouped my whole design so that when I adjust the size now, it's going to adjust the size of the heart and the wings and love, and it's going to do that at the same time. So I'm not going to end up with one part of my design being bigger than the other. Next is time to resize. Now this is pretty big at the moment. It's 18.72 by 12.77, which I think's far too big for a left breast pocket design. So I'm going to resize it just by using this side of the drag handle. Let's just pull it down. I'm going to make it to be about 8 centimeters across, 8.5 centimeters, and then it's just under 6 centimeters deep as well, which I think will be a nice size. Don't want it too big. That's about right. So now my final design size is 8.63 centimeters by 5.89. Now I'm going to just bring this up into the center again. Do you remember me talking to you about mirror before, and that we didn't need to do it on the collar, but we need to do it for this one? So with this one, there's a couple of different ways that we mirror, and I like to mirror whilst I'm on my canvas. I know some people prefer to do it when they get through to make it, but I like to do it on my canvas. So first of all, I'm going to show you the way that Cricut want you to do it. So let's go through to make it. And just ignore the way that this has come out with the love and the heart like that for now. So we don't really need to mirror this. It's a symmetrical image, so it doesn't matter all that much. Let's click on this one with the love on it. Now, if I were to put that down on my mat and cut that out as it is now, when I come to stick it onto my shirt, it is going to be backwards. So that's no good. So we need to mirror. So Cricut give us this toggle here. Let's click on it. And now that's backwards, perfect, ready to go. Let's go back to the canvas and I'll show you my preferred way of doing it. So what I do, again, is select everything on there. You can see it's all green, so it's all good. Then what I like to do is come up here to where it says flip, and I'll click on that, and I will flip horizontally. The next thing to do is make sure that everything is going to cut the way we want it to. Because as you saw when I went through to make it before, my heart was over here and it wasn't going to be very easy for me to layer this design when I get through to putting it onto my shirt. So what I need to do, first of all, is make sure that the respective parts of my design are attached to one another. So what I need to do first of all is click on the group and ungroup everything. I'm going to click on this heart with angel wings as well, and I am going to ungroup that also. So now I've got 3 separate layers. That's what I want now to allow me to attach everything as needs be. Let's click on the heart in the layers panel, and then I'm going to hold down shift and I'm going to click on the love. Now I'm going to come down to the bottom and I'm going to click on attach. Now it's brought that heart forward, which is absolutely fine. But when I go through to make it, this is exactly what we're going to see on the mat. So the first mat is going to be like this, and then the second mat is going to look like this. Now I'm going to go through to make it again, and what we're going to see is exactly what I said. We've got this heart and the wings, and then we've got love with the heart above it, and that's exactly perfect and what we want to do. Let's go through to continue again. Because we did our test cut previously, we don't need to do it again with this project. If you were changing the type of HTV or iron-on that you were using, I would always recommend that you do another test cut. I'm just going to click back on to the basic cut on mat number 1. I'm going to come down to the glitter iron-on. And again, we don't need to worry about this mirror setting because we've mirrored on the mat. Let's grab our materials and set up our mat ready to go. I've got my 2 pieces of glitter vinyl. This one is going to be used for the love and the heart, and then this one is what we've just used for Dot's hearts on her collar, and I think that's going to be lovely for the wings. Now this is a little cut off bit that I've had left over, so it's going to be interesting to see if it actually works and fits onto here. I'm going to turn my mat round so that I'm working with the centimetres, and I'm going to place this at the top of my mat here. It should be perfect because my design's about 5 centimetres, isn't it? So put that there, and then I am actually going to flip my mat round, and I'm going to now place my white in this corner. And the reason I've done that is just because it's quicker for me when I come to cut 2 mats separately, and it just helps me to be able to just take the mat out, turn it round and press go again without having to redo the mat or anything like that. So let's pop this in the machine and cut it out, and then I'll come back to you once it's all cut and done, and we'll weed it together and put it onto the sweater. Again, I'm going to be using all the same things that I used before, but I'm going to be using my bigger Cricut 8x8 Easy Press 2. Again, it's the raspberry one. I've had this a really long time and I don't use it as much as I should really, but this is the one I'm going to be using for this part of the project. Then I've got my vinyl is all cut out. I just need to weed it, so we'll do that in a second. I've got some heat resistant tape again and the Teflon sheet and the pressing pillow. So I'm just going to quickly weed my designs off of my mat, and then we will get ready to press this onto the jumper. You might notice that I switched over halfway through weeding to this pin pen. As you can see, that point on there is really sharp, and it does really help if you are weeding something quite intricate like this, just to make sure that you get into all the bits that you need to get into. The True Control weeding tool is my favourite for vinyl, but for HTV you need something a little bit sharper, so I'd always recommend using a pin pen if you can. I'm not really sure why I started off doing it with the thicker one, but I guess it's because I'm just so used to doing that with that. There we go. Okie dokie. That is done. There's all my negative. We can get rid of that. Pop that to one side. Next thing we're going to do then is refer to the Cricut Heat Guide. Let's go back to the computer now and work out our settings using the Cricut Heat Guide for our vinyl to make sure that it sticks well onto our sweatshirt. Here I am then on the Cricut website. So to access the heat guide, what you're going to need to go on to is cricut.com/heat guide. Alternatively, if you can't remember that or you can't get onto it, just scroll down to the bottom of any page in the Cricut website and you'll see under products here, heat guide. That's the one you want to click on. So the heat guide here is really helpful if you don't know what the material is that you're using. And with my white glitter, I don't actually know what the settings are for it. I don't know whether it's cool peel or whether it's hot peel or whether it's cold peel. So what I'm going to have to do is use the heat guide here to work it out. And I have just looked on the Tactile Craft Supplies website. They do still do this, and it says that if you buy the material you do get full instructions with it, but I didn't get any instructions when I bought it at the craft show. So I'm just going to go along this. So I'm using a Cricut Easy Press 2. I am going to then come down here to my material and I am going to just have a quick scroll through. Now all of these are going to be Cricut materials. So I'm going to choose glitter iron-on. It can't be that much different, I wouldn't have thought. Then I'm going to select my base material, which is going to be cotton poly blend. Then I'm going to check this little circle and make sure that it's Cricut pressing mat that I'm using. If you're not using a pressing mat, you need to come off that and not apply that setting. Let's click on apply. It's going to tell me the temperature and the time. I'm using Celsius, so let's flick that over. So it's 165 for 30 seconds with firm pressure. And then it says slowly remove the liner when cool to touch. So this is all the information here that I am going to need to press this glitter onto my jumper. So let's go back to the desk, set up the easy press and get the design set up on my sweater ready to go. First things first then, let's set up the press. So turn it on and you can see now I've got the Celsius at the top and the seconds at the bottom. It's heating up, so it's on to 10 already. Then what I need to do to set this up is press my temperature button. It's set to 160, so I'm going to pop that up to 165 and the time is currently set on 15 seconds. So let's hit the clock and put that up to 30. Okay, that's ready. Like with the mini press, it's orange whilst it's heating up, and then once it beeps and tells us that it's ready, that will turn green. I'm just going to put that over to one side for now while we set everything else up. Here's the design. I just want to make sure that I've got no wayward pieces of vinyl stuck to the back of it, because that will ruin it. That's all good. Let's get the jumper now and just get it set up on the pressing pillow. Let's move those to one side. Here is my sweater then. First thing that I'm going to do is make sure I've got it straight. So I'm going to fold it in half like this and make sure that the shoulders and the neck are lined up. And then I'm going to just put that flat on my pressing pillow. And I am going to make a nice straight fold from the neck down. Then I'm just going to grab my easy press. And it's not warmed up enough yet to press, but it's warmed up enough just to iron onto there and give me a really nice crease down the front of that sweater, just so that it's going to show me that I've got everything set up straight. And it's so lovely and warm. My hands are ever so cold. Right, let's open it back out. So now you can see we've got a nice straight line down the centre of our jumper. That is the beep to tell us that's ready to go. I have just put a little bit of tape on there so I know where I want it to be. I've just got to make sure now that I am lined up straight. So we just want to make sure that the edge of the pillow is lined up there. Then we are going to just very quickly, because that's paper tape, it won't melt. I'm just going to grab the Teflon and just go over this just to warm up that jumper like I did before with the dog collar. Okay, that is good. Because it's paper, it won't hurt. Let's now get ready to place the design. So let's pop this on. About there. Let's just check it's nice and straight against the bottom of the jumper. Make a tiny adjustment if needed. Okay, now we're happy with that. Let's get that Teflon sheet. Just going to put that on there. Then I'm going to get my easy press. I'm going to pop that on. I am now going to press go and press down as hard as I can. This is where an auto press would come in extremely handy. So that's the first layer done. We've just got to lift that up slowly. It's very, very hot. Perfect. Lovely. That looks great. And as you can see, that's what the transfer sheet looks like afterwards. Now we've got our little white heart. I'm just going to bring that in. Just line it up there. And we're going to again get our Teflon, pop that over there, and we're going to press that again. All done. Pop that off again. take off our Teflon, peel back our layer. Look at that, that looks fabulous. Right, what I'm going to do now is just turn it over like I did with the dog collar. I'm going to just press it from the back again just to be certain that it's nice and well adhered. Pop that Teflon back down and do the same as we did before. There we go. Oh, it's lovely and warm. Okay, there we go, that is done. Here's our two finished projects then. We've got the sweater and the dog collar. I have enjoyed making this video. I really hope you've enjoyed watching it and that you've learnt something new and that it's going to inspire you to try some HTV or iron-on, depending on what you want to call it, in the future. Don't forget to tag me in anything that you make on Instagram. I'll pop my link down below so you can do that. And I'll see you again soon for another video. Take care. Bye.